Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out on this short course. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm stone cold.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy WeTooDeep, and we are back with another episode here of the Slappin' Meat Wrestling Podcast. We still repping Boston for the rest of the week, baby. Banner 18's going up. But let's jump on in. Let's talk about some more wrestling here, some news. We'll break down NXT. And, Wavy D asked a question as we ended Tuesday's episode. And I got my answer for that. And then we'll talk about the title of this episode. Do not touch the IWC's sacred cows. And I want to explain that and go over that with you all. But first, let's talk about some other news before we get into that. Some news that sort of made the realms here is something that people have been talking about, and that is that Shane McMahon has been putting out feelers on potentially joining AEW. Yeah. Look, if Shane wants to be in AEW, like if Shane McMahon really wants to be in AEW, let him do it, dude. Let him do it. I can't think of any other way to drive viewership away from your product than to put Shane McMahon on the TV. I just can't think of anything else that would make the majority of wrestling fan base, like the majority of the viewers come from the casual fan. Like, and until the hardcores recognizes that the hardcore fan base that watches on TV make up approximately 600,000 to 800,000 people, and anything over that is your casual fan. And the casual fan do not want to see Shane McMahon on any TV, much less AEW, which they're already not watching. I don't know what type of burn that you think this is going to be, right? But as Notorious Nerdy D has put on his show when he talked about this, if Tony Khan hires Shane McMahon, he completely goes against and contradicts his entire statement of how WWE is the Harvey Weinstein of professional wrestling, where he made a giant fool out of himself. But then you're going to hire his son. You're going to hire his son. You're going to critique Vince McMahon, who has zero to do with the business anymore. But you're going to go and hire his son, who don't you think, who grew up in that culture that you were just critiquing, who probably knows about it, probably didn't say anything about it, right? I don't know, man. So my take on this is do it. I dare you, Tony. Please drive away any potentiality of me ever watching that show ever again. By putting Shane McMahon, what are you going to do with Shane? You're going to put him on TV. You're going to get the big pop. You can't use "Here Comes the Money." That's a trademarked WWE song. So like anything that makes Shane McMahon marketable is owned by WWE. So what are you going to do? You're going to put him on TV for a week or two, get the big ratings pop, for about a week or two, and then you're going to go back down to the 700,000 that you're sitting at, and nothing's going to change in your company because Tony Khan, you don't know how to book anything, dude. You just don't know how to book anything. So yeah, do us a favor, Tony. Do all the casual fans a favor. Please sign Shane McMahon. Please sign Shane McMahon so that I can have an actual legitimate reason outside of I just don't like your show why I'm not going to watch AEW ever again, dog. Because that shit will be cringy as hell. I'm just being honest with you. Oh, man. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. But let's go in and talk about NXT now. Let's talk about things that I like. NXT starts. We start with this 25-man battle royal, which I actually thought would be the main event. Going into the show, we start the show, and I think they started with Javon Evans playing, and everyone else. So 23 men are already in the ring. Javon Evans is 24, and out comes number 25, being the one, the only Joe Hendry. Right? We believe they played the music. And let me just tell you something, brother. We were just talking about moves in AEW that weren't going to draw the needle, weren't going to move the needle, weren't going to draw anything. Joe Hendry is the complete opposite of that. I'm sure the ratings didn't really boost at all because it wasn't like known he was going to be there. But the YouTube viewership, the X video viewership, you're talking about like, I think I saw the stat somewhere where Joe Hendry's debut in NXT has garnered more viewership or right. So Joe Hendry's debut on NXT gained over 3.5 million views in just 15 hours on WWE's official X account. That is more views than the debuts of Okada, Ospreay, and Mercedes Moné combined, which currently sit around 2 million views on X. Now, I know the response of the IWC is going to be, oh, well, WWE has a bigger following. Okay, so they have 14.1 million followers. 14.1 million followers. AEW's. Let's hope I could still see it because I can still see their Twitter. Can I make the official petition to see your Facebook again? I think y'all blocked me on there. Okay, so they have. Well, this is just very telling. They have less than 1 million followers. Right. So I want to put that into comparison with NXT. Right, because so NXT still has over 1 million followers, but it's 1.7, right? So I want to put into comparison, like you can't say you're competing with the big dog when you have 13 million less followers than them on, oh, but they've had a 40-year advantage, but no. You're just not good, Tony. Like fans, you're just that the product's not good. And so even still, if Mercedes Moné meant that much to the wrestling world, people, even those who don't follow, would watch her debut, right? We're talking about 3 million people. We're talking about 3.5 million views in 15 hours, where months after Okada, Ospreay, and Moné, and they still are only at 2 million views, right? Because WWE won, bigger platform, I completely understand it, but the product's more important. So this is where I want to draw this at. AEW, you're not competing with Raw and SmackDown anymore. In fact, I don't think you're not competing at all because you're losing to NXT right now. In terms of ratings, you're the fourth. Dynamite is the fourth highest rated show. in terms of viewership, because NXT is now above you. Now that flips back and forth, but that's where you're competing. You're competing with what many would consider the developmental brand. Now, I don't consider it developmental. I consider it still, part of WWE, but it's the third brand, right? It would be like Coca-Cola sitting here and saying, "Oh yeah, but we're, you know, well, let's not say Coke, because Coke's number one at everything, right? So Monday Night Raw is Coke, right? Monday Night Raw is Coca-Cola, right? And it would be like, NXT would end up being, so let's think of the Coke brand here. So like SmackDown would end up being, it's similar. So let's say it's like Diet Coke, right? Is SmackDown, and then NXT is probably, something like, I don't actually know Coca-Cola's products. This would have worked better if I used Pepsi. But Coca-Cola is the big dog. That's sort of the reason why I was saying this. But so like if Raw was Coke, SmackDown's Diet Coke, NXT's probably like Cherry Coke, right? People like it. It doesn't have that big of a following. And then like AEW, you're in that range of the Cherry Cokes, or the what's the secondary soda at, Fanta, or what's the Mountain Dew type thing? They don't really, Mellow Yellow, is that what it is? Mellow Yellow? Yeah, so you're the Mellow Yellow of the wrestling world, right? People like it. There's a following there, but you're not competing with the big dog, right? You're not competing with the big dog, right? So whereas like Sprite is like NXT, there's a following, not the big dog. So like you're competing. If I were to judge like Coke's branding, the different products Coke offers, Coke's definitely one. Diet Coke is equal. That's Raw and SmackDown. Somewhere down the line, there's a Sprite and a Mellow Yellow, and that's where AEW and NXT are, right? They're still part of the, right. So NXT to me is not developmental. It's the third brand though, right? So I'm never going to sit here and say NXT is on the same level as Raw and SmackDown, because viewership, the numbers don't prove that. And so AEW, you're competing with this, right? But let's back to NXT for a minute. Joe Hendry shows up. Did y'all hear that pop? Joe Hendry's over, dude. And that's what I had to come to. Like so when this whole phase of Joe Hendry started, I was like, I got to give it some time. Maybe this is just a little corny thing. It's not going to last very long, bro. It's lasted. And then, so look, this made me even more of a believer that Joe Hendry's over. They're obviously going to use more of him throughout the time. I like that he got eliminated by Kazarian, because that's the TNA feud right now. If you aren't watching TNA, it is Kazarian versus Ospreay. That's the feud on TNA, so they continue that. It's cool that Kazarian gets a moment. He goes into the final four of the Battle Royal. Javon Evans eventually wins. I like that. I like that they're moving towards like a face. This is like a face versus face championship match, right? And it feels like they're moving towards this idea of we don't need to go heel face every single match, right? What's the reason Javon Evans is in this match? It's not that he hates Trick, it's he won the Battle Royal, right? He wants the title as well. I think it's kind of crazy to think that because a babyface has the title, no other babyface can go after the title, right? I think that's part of the wrestling world that I hope we move from pretty soon. And it looks like NXT is doing that. The rest of NXT is your standard NXT, right? You have several matches. You have a triple threat women's tag match that set up Roxanne and Lola. They won. Roxanne, I guess you could say turns. and attacks Lola after the match. That's going to set up the heat wave match there. See, I don't see Lola winning this though. Listen to me, because I thoroughly believe Roxanne's losing the title to Julia, and I believe Julia is going to show up at Heatwave. Roxanne's going to win, and then Julia is going to show up. That's what I thoroughly believe. Going forward. But Heatwave's a few weeks away. We'll talk about that. We'll predict that at the proper moment. Yeah, we get Fallon versus Carly Bright, which is a decent match. Fallon picks up the win off a distraction from the new and improved Wendy Chu. We hear that Hank Ledger's able to come back, so Hank and Tank's back. I think there was something in a backstage segment where they're going to do like a tag team turmoil next week. Nathan Fraser gets Tony D for the Heritage Cup next week. I like this tension they're building between Fraser and Axiom, where it seems like Axiom wants to focus on tag team wrestling, but Fraser wants to go out and he's going for Heritage Cup. He's going for the world title, right? You get Kalani versus Meechin for a women's North American title defense that Lonnie picks up off a distraction from OTM, in which Jada Parker then attacks Meechin, growing some storylines here. Kalani backstage with Ava, which Ava looking good as always. She may not be the best GM right now, but you know what? She was able to make sure no massacres happen on her show this week, unlike Adam Pearce. I'm just saying, like, but she's definitely the best looking of the GMs. We can at least say that, right? But she's talking to Lonnie backstage, and Lonnie's offering Sol Ruka. This is what I'm talking about. Again, Lonnie, a face, offering her best friend Sol an opportunity at the title, where it's face versus face, where Sol Ruka just earns an opportunity. I like that idea. I like that match. I really do. Trying to think of, for the most part, Ethan Page gets upset because Ora Mensa attacked him going into the battle royal, and he technically was never eliminated, though I don't actually think the match was started. So I don't think he was ever really officially in it. So he faced Javon Evans, who won. He beat Javon Evans, and then Trick and Ethan started getting into it, and then Sean Spears came out, and I'm assuming a tag team match is going to be next week with Spears and Page versus Evans and Trick. Ora Mensa came out, not Ora Mensa, Obafemi, came out and did a promo, and where him and Wes is going to get an opportunity at Heatwave. This is going to be a real fun match. It's 1-on-1. With the stip being that if Wesley loses, he can't challenge Ora Mensa ever. I don't know why I keep saying Ora Mensa. He can't challenge Obafemi anymore for this title while Oba's the champion. Chase U defeats the Good Brothers. Ridge is officially a member of Chase U. Riley's not there, so I wonder how he's going to take the news next week when he comes back. There's a lot of good things going on in NXT. Your standard episode. The big thing is Joe Hendry. And he'll definitely be back. I can imagine he'll be a part of NXT at some point. I kind of hope to see if he's in Chicago tonight, because that's where TNA did their filming. And so theoretically he was in Chicago on Thursday, when, granted, I think they taped it or over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday last week, because that's how they do they do like 2-day tapings between they're not Against All Odds wasn't a pay-per-view per se. It was more of like a special event similar to what like AEW does with like Blood and Guts and stuff like that. But after those, they in between those and pay-per-views, they do like 2-day tapings in the city they're in. So theoretically, like Joe Hendry was in Chicago on Thursday, even though it was filmed last weekend, right? So could we potentially see Joe Hendry show up on SmackDown tonight? That would be interesting. Another thing we have to look out for tonight is the Wyatt Six wasn't on NXT. Are they going to stay just on Raw? Will they be Raw and SmackDown? How does that work out? I don't expect them tonight, to be honest with you. I think that'll be a Raw exclusive. But yeah, that's my NXT review. So let's go ahead and jump into Wavy D's question he asked me on Tuesday. He asked me, what are some logical plot holes that irritate you in wrestling, right? And so I got some of them. Some of these, I was sort of stuck, had to think of some. And so I went and started like looking up like what other people would answer to this on like Reddit and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, this guy's right. This is annoying. And then that really got my juices going. So I got a few of them. So the first one is whenever like they try to arrest a character and like they bring out the police officers, which by the way, they're not real police officers. Like I think we all know that, right? But the police officers come, they arrest them, and like the talent attacks the police officer. That I don't know if y'all know this, but that's a crime. Like and they've never like said, oh, Roman Reigns attacked a U.S. Marshal. He's been arrested and charged with such and such. Right? Like I get it, it's storyline. But that's a logic plot hole right there. That's a major thing that's kind of irritating where like you attack a first responder, like that's a crime. At least make it part of the story where like Roman Reigns is arrested, he not in the building type thing, right? The second thing for me, and there's a reason for this. There's a logistical reason, a wrestling reason. Wrestling fans, I know are going to attack me for. But something that really annoys me is when people go for pins after really basic moves. So like, for example, like if I hit you with like a crossbody off the top rope, right? And it's like the start of, or let's say the bell rings and I hit you with like a clothesline, I'm not going to pin you. But right now the wrestling fan, the hardcore fan will say, well, that's wearing out the opponent. Okay, cool. But you know what else wears out the opponent? Go on your continued offense. Like this, if this was a real fight and I knocked you down and you were down and out, like, and you're on the ground, I'm not just going to let you get up and breathe and regain strength. I'm going to get on, like in UFC, like if you get a knockdown, right? Like if we're sparring or if we're fighting in the UFC and I hit you and you fall down, I'm not just going to sit there, walk around the octagon and wait for you to get back up. No, I'm gonna attack. I'm gonna get on top. I'm gonna control the top of you. And I'm gonna start laying haymakers in until the ref calls the match, right? Well, in WWE, it seems like like they'll go for like a DDT, and it's not the finisher. So they'll do a DDT, or they'll do like a simple like clothesline, and then they'll go for a pin, knowing it's not like we all know it's not going to be a 3 count. And that just really annoys me. Like instead of wasting all that time to pin them, you could have done more damage, right? And this is actually the way that I play 2K. Is like I do like 3 pins in the entire match. To be honest with you, the way I play 2K, like I'm on offense all the time. Like I'm attacking. I'm not going to stop attack. That's the way you're supposed to fight, right? And I know we're building out and drawing out like storyline, and I get all that. I understand it's a story, right? But it's really kind of annoying when there's 18 pin attempts when there should only really be 3 or 4, right? That's just a thing that kind of annoys me. The third thing that I thought of was, in a standard match, right? the disqualifications are on. If I were to use a chair, it would be considered me using a weapon and I would be disqualified. If I were to go outside the ring, bring the stairs inside the ring and hit you with them, that's me using a weapon. But if I were to take you outside the ring and throw you into the stairs, that's not considered using a weapon. And that makes zero sense to me. Either the stairs are a weapon or they're not. And so that's one of those things that's always sort of confused me. The next one is like when the good guy's getting beat down and a run-in happens to save the guy. Why do we got to play the music? Why do we got to announce who's coming? Like typically, like, so let me just use an example. Like if me and Wavy D were out walking the streets of Connecticut where he lived or whatever, or, we out repping Boston and some New York fans some Knicks fans or some Laker fans try to start shit, and Wavy D's getting in a tussle with these guys, and maybe I walked away to go like use the bathroom or whatever, right? And they're jabbing, and he's maybe they jump him or whatever, like, fantasize it for a minute, right? Just use your imagination here. Like, and I walk out and I see them jumping this dude, right? I'm not gonna like, wait a minute, play my music, brother, I'm going, right? And then come out and save. No. I'm just gonna surprise attack him from behind, right? So why then in wrestling do we need to play the music? Right. It would make a better feel to me if the good guys just ran out the locker room without music, right? Because when the music plays, it almost feels like it was planned that they're going to be there. Now, granted, I know they were, but you want this to feel real, like they're just trying to make the save. Now, a lot of people complain about the time it takes. I like that time because that's real. Maybe, if I'm sitting in the locker room and I see that my best friend's getting jumped in the ring, the locker room's not right behind the curtain, right? And so I'm running from catering or I'm running from the locker room, or I'd like to see like realism where like dude's in the shower and he gets a knock on the door. Hey, bro's getting jumped, and the dude jumps out the shower, like wraps a towel around him and comes. I mean, that may be a little too much, but you get what I'm saying, right? Why do run-ins require music to be played? Is really the question that I'm asking. Two more. The first one is slow climbing ladders. Bruh, this annoys the living piss out of me. When you're like, and we're about to see this happen at Money in the Bank, where like they clear the ring of all the competitors, they set the ladder up, and they climb this ladder at like a snail's pace. Like, bro, climb the damn ladder, grab the briefcase, right? Like I don't understand. This partially goes back to like the pins thing. Like, why like if you're in a ladder match, I don't understand why. If you're in a ladder match and there's 6 people and you set up the ladder and there's 5 other people are still standing in the ring, why are you climbing the ladder? And then you're going to climb it at a snail's pace, right? Like, the idea is to incapacitate everyone else and then climb the ladder. You really should only have people climbing ladders like 2 or 3 times in this match. I just, and realism, like, if you're being logical, right? The last one is referencing and this is more focused on WWE, but focusing, WWE, referencing one's independent work when they were under a different name. So for an example, right? Sami, Zayn, and Kevin Owens got to NXT, and throughout their WWE run, they've referenced this sort of like 20-year rivalry. Well, can we be completely honest with you for a minute? Sami Zayn and El Generico, we know they're the same person, but in the WWE universe, El Generico doesn't exist, right? And this actually really annoys me. Kevin Owens and Kevin Steen are 2 different people. They're in 2 different universes, right? And so I don't like this idea of like referencing something that happened. I appreciate it, Vince McMahon's sort of mindset. If it didn't happen on WWE TV, it didn't happen. I like that idea. In a way, which sounds weird because I was just praising Joe Hendry. And so like Vince would never have let Joe Hendry show up on his show ever unless he was signed by WWE. And so I think that there's a way you could do it, but like technically, like Sami Zayn, the character, and Kevin Owens, the character, have only known each other for 10 years. Right? Because that's how long they've been in this WWE universe. And so it's just, I know why they reference it because it pops the marks, but it's sort of annoying to me where like Sami Zayn as a character did not exist in 2004, right? Because it wasn't a character, it wasn't real, right? And so that's something that's the thing that annoys me, and I'm gonna have to start getting used to because WWE is gonna start with Triple H at the helm, gonna really start focusing on people's indie work as they draw in more people from independent scenes and other promotions. So that's something that, as a wrestling fan, if you're annoyed by that, I mean that you're gonna have to start really getting used to that happening. But those are the things that, that kind of annoy me. Let me know what y'all think about it. Add some of yours in the comments of things that may annoy you. And then let's get to this main event of this episode. Don't touch the sacred cow. Now, what do I mean by that? So in cultural terms and sort of like religious terms, a sacred cow is another way of saying like a person's idol. Or in, I don't remember exactly which Eastern religion. I don't know if it's Hinduism or Buddhism. I think it's Hinduism. Cows are considered sacred. You don't touch the cat. Like for example, like if you're in India and you're driving down the street and there's a cow in the middle of the road, you have to stop. You can't honk at it. You can't force it to move. You can't touch it, right? Cows are sacred, right? And so to use this metaphor, I believe in culture we have our secret cows that you can't touch. But I think in wrestling, the IWC has a sacred cow. They have several sacred cows that you're not allowed to touch. You're not allowed to critique. I think AEW as a whole is one of them, and I bother that sacred cow all the time and get critique from it. But also, I think I touched one on Monday, and that is Bray Wyatt. I think that they have turned this character into a sacred cow. And so let me take you back and explain what I mean when I posted my tweet that I posted and I shared it, and it's drawn some interest. The tweet itself, the X post itself on X really didn't receive much notice. Which is what I expected. I don't really have a large presence on X. But I screenshotted, I shared it in a Facebook group that I'm in, and I shared it on TikTok, and that's where a lot of the critique to me has come in, especially on TikTok, where at this current moment the picture has over 9,000 views, the most views I've ever gotten on a single post on TikTok. Completely out like by a lot. Like I think the most before that was like 1,000 views. I don't really have a large presence there, and in that video was touching another sacred cow of the culture back in June of last year. And so let me read the tweet itself, because it wasn't any, all I said is at some point We have to put the spooky shit behind us and get in the ring. Until that happens, I'm not sold. That's all the tweet said. Until the Wyatt 6 can get in the ring, and I sort of explained this on Tuesday's episode, and what I meant by that is you can do all the cinematics you want. You can have the greatest debut ever. Now, we'll talk about that in a minute. You could have this level of production, which the segment itself, I've said this, the segment itself was fantastic, 10 out of 10. But if all we're going to do is that for 3 months, for 6 months, and we're not going to build any feud and purpose as to why you're here, you're not going to sell me on this gimmick. Now, until we see what happens next, I'm not going to reserve judgment. I'm just saying you don't have 6 months to convince me on why that this needs to be on TV. At no point in that tweet did I say that I did not like this. At no point in that tweet did I say that I thought that Bray Wyatt or his gimmicks were bad. At no point in that did I say that, right? Let me make myself clear again. Let me repeat myself. At no point in that tweet, in that post that I shared, did I say that Bray Wyatt did not deserve this, that I say that the Wyatt 6 sucked, or that I hated the segment. Like I've said, the segment alone, 10 out of 10, perfect in almost every way you can imagine a debut can go. However, what I did say was, knowing the history of this type of gimmick, this gimmick itself, over the last 3 to 5 years, where the Fiend, wasn't booked properly. The last time Bray returned, booking wasn't necessarily the best. They took 6 months of QR codes, 6 months of promos. We got the Mountain Dew match, which was just a corporate sponsored gimmick match, nothing special. Unfortunately, Bray got sick, and that ultimately led to his passing. I'm not saying that I'm not even blaming Bray Wyatt for this. It's not that I don't trust Taylor Rotunda or the other people involved in this. In fact, I actually believe if they were the ones booking this would get over. I truly believe if Taylor Rotunda and Eric Redbeard and Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis, and Nikki Cross, if they were the ones responsible for writing the segment and putting this on the show, I know it would get over because they're the ones behind it. But the problem is WWE has a writing team that historically I just don't trust to get this type of gimmick over. That's what I was saying. It wasn't that I don't think, I'm all for this. I did not say this shouldn't be on TV. I didn't say that this sucked. I said that booking has flopped on this because of the booking team, not because of Bray, not because of anybody else involved, but because of the booking team. I don't think that they know how to do it. Now, I do know from some research looking into this that they've hired a new guy in charge of character development that is really big on this type of stuff. So, like I said, I'm hopeful. I hope that this gets over. I don't have an actual judgment on it. All my post was saying was, until they can prove to me that this is more than just promos and vignettes and murking people backstage, and right, never once did this post ever suggest that the guys involved were bad wrestlers. I've stood up for Joe Gacy a lot on NXT. I think he's a fantastic wrestler, fantastic character worker. Nikki Cross is really good. Bo Dallas, Taylor Rotunda, really good. Eric Redbeard's really good. Loomis is really good. Everyone in this is decent in the ring. That's not what I was critiquing either. I was critiquing the booking, that this has to be more than just QR codes and promos, and you have to get them in some feud that makes sense. That's all that I was saying, right? But what ends up happening is you touch one of these golden cows of the IWC, one of these sacred idols, these sacred cows of the IWC, and they don't listen to what you're saying. They put words in your mouth and they start assuming what you're saying, and they make you out to be the bad guy. I was not right. Right. And so if that's what they want me to be, then that's what they can live with. But I want this to work out. I don't think like I don't know if it will or not. And their response will be like, well, you just got to sit here and watch. Okay. But why can't we ask questions? Why can't I express what I feel about the gimmick just because it doesn't feel the same way, just because it's not the same opinion as what the rest of the IWC is saying? Why can't I express that opinion? Right? Because it feels like if you're not over here creaming your shorts over this and automatically sold on this gimmick from the first light going off, then you're just a hater. No, I have questions. What are we doing next with this? This first feud matters. Is it Gable? What's like? I have questions. I'm trying to figure this out just like everybody else. But just because my opinion isn't, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, because we got to slow down on this is the greatest debut of all time. Like I've seen people say that. We got to slow down on that. We got to wait. We got to wait on that because there's been a lot of debuts in wrestling over the 100 of years that it's been a thing. And if we talk about like TV booking, like even in my life, in the 10, 15 years that I've been watching wrestling, there's been a lot of debuts that we have to weigh in, and we gotta slow down on, okay, this is the greatest debut. Okay, it may be the greatest debut. I'm not going to sit here and say that it is. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not. But we gotta go past the debut then, right? And so my question just is what are we going to do next? That's all I was asking. It was a simple question. Where is the direction of this? And the IWC did not like that, right? And so this is just saying that you touch one of these sacred cows, you're going to get the critique, and I'm down for it. I'm down to face that critique. But I just don't understand why we can't have conversation that is productive and where I don't have to believe what you believe and you don't have to believe what I believe and we don't have to have the same opinion. But the IWC doesn't want that. It's you have to walk in lockstep with what the IWC says, or else you're a hater, and that's just not right. That's just not how the world works in reality. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Like I want it to work. I think the post was completely taken out of what I was trying to say. And I appreciate the 9,100 views and the likes and the comments and all that interaction, and this is probably the most I'm ever going to get out of it, but it is what it is. And at the end of the day, I'm going to just say what I want to say. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to create a conversation. I'm not here to tell people who's right and who's wrong and what their wrestling opinions are. Sometimes my opinions are, far out there, maybe don't make no sense to some people. But I'm just here to ask questions. I'm just here to lay the groundwork of conversation. That's all I want to do with this podcast and with anything that I post on social media. It's just to open up a dialogue. But it appears this generation doesn't want that. And so that's where the problem lies. And so, but let me know what you all think about this episode. Thank you for watching and listening to another episode. If you're on YouTube watching this, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, send us a comment on what you like about the show, what you didn't like, what you agree with. Share it with your friends if you're on Apple or Spotify. Follow or subscribe, whatever their wording terminology is. Leave us a review on either platform. Again, share with your friends as well. All the links for the Discord and WWE shop are in the description. Thanks again for listening. And we will see you. I will see you on Tuesday with DJ Wavy D as we are pushing towards Money in the Bank. We'll review Raw like we always do and see what other news happens over the rest of this week and the weekend. But until then, y'all have a great weekend, and I will see y'all on Tuesday.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out on this jaw cord. But it's no hope.